In 2016, I had an addiction. An addiction to what, you may ask? Alcohol? Heroin? Lead paint chips? No. The answer is Nuclear Throne. I would play that shit for every waking minute I had the chance. If it was possible, I'd inject it into my fucking bloodstream. That's how addicted I was. This game has had so much of an impact on me, it's actually kinda absurd. Not only because I've spent 350 hours on it, but also because it's what's got me into online communities in the first place. It's even what's got me used to speaking English. I carry around the influence this game has had on me everywhere I go online. The only game I can think of that's had more of an impact on me is TF2, and I have 1200 damn hours in there. I think Nuclear Throne really is criminally underrated. It's always overshadowed by games like Enter the Gungeon. For some reason, Nuclear Throne seems to never really have taken off in the same way. But why have I been so obsessed with it? What makes this game different from your average indie top-down shooter made in Game Maker with pixel graphics? The answer is that it's really fucking fun. And also sunk cost fallacy, but don't tell anyone. I want to start off by getting the obligatory Enter the Gungeon comparison out of the way. I played that game for 15 minutes about 2 years ago. The only thing I remember is that it felt slow as hell after being used to Nuclear Throne. That's all. Not gonna mention ETG again after this. NT is a very fast-paced game at times, and most of the skill comes from having good reaction times and managing both moving and shooting whatever the game throws at you as soon as it is shootable. That might sound piss easy on paper, but when the levels end up looking like this, it suddenly starts to get a bit more challenging. This complex and fast-paced action makes the game almost never feel boring, at least in my opinion. No matter what you're shooting and what you're shooting at, everything feels satisfying and punchy. The game's animations are a very important factor, but the soundscape is what really pulls things together. All of the sound effects are very well made and feel absolutely great in-game. Everything from the firing sound effect of the grenade launcher to the burping of some of the game's enemies, things just fit really nicely together to form combats that simply feels good. And of course, the sound effects aren't the only part of the soundscape that turns my mouth into a fucking waterfall, but the music as well. Which leads me to my next point. Every track in the game has one thing in common. They're all absolute fucking bangers. It's not without reason that I have the Oasis track as my channel theme. Actually, it was either that or literal penis music. Nuclear Throne's music is very atmospheric, whether it's trying to convey the mood of a lonely struggle to survive in a cold and uncaring world devoid of compassion where the only principle governing waffle zones a lush world full of life is now kill or be killed, or hyping up for a boss fight, and he always knows how to make you feel what it wants you to feel, which is usually some kind of variation of Jesus Christ, my ears are orgasming in ways I would never have thought possible. Many of the game's tracks also have a certain melody that's consistent throughout all of them, making the game feel a lot like a proper journey where recognizable tunes follow you every step of the way towards the elusive Nuclear Throne. Speaking of the Nuclear Throne, NT's general theme is one I really like. It shows a very colourful side of a world post-nuclear apocalypse that I don't think is seen in a lot of other games. This post-apocalyptic theme is very clear throughout the entire game and is expressed beautifully through the game's sprites. The enemies range from robots to mutants to bandits, and they all seem to fit perfectly in the game world. Things such as the XP being pleasantly green nuclear waste, and the upgrades you get in rather typical roguelite fashion, all being mutations to add on to your already questionably healthy body, combine to create an overarching atmosphere and theme that feels connected and coherent throughout the entire experience. When you first sit down and play NT for a bit, you may think that running around shooting things until they can no longer be shot is the entire game. But one of the things that really makes NT special in my eyes is the sheer mechanical broadness of it. Running and shooting is one thing, but the game also has a lot of different mechanics to explore. Secret levels, mutations, enemies, and characters all require different actions to discover, and there are also many little mechanics scattered throughout the game. For example, if you don't open a red weapon chest for 2 levels, you get a big one on the 3rd, or how cursed weapons can appear if you're wearing a crown. Individually, these little intricacies don't do much for the overall experience, but together they make the game feel a lot deeper than just step 1, shoot, step 2, loot. They make the game world seem much more alive, and you always feel like there's some sort of little mechanical trivia to explore. There's also the concept of looping, which I won't get too much into here because I want this video to be an entry for new players and I don't want to spoil too much. All I'll say is that it essentially gives the game infinite replayability even after doing everything there technically is to do. Meanwhile, there's also characters, crowns, weapons, skins, and entire game modes to unlock from one run to the other, ensuring that you won't really run out of content anytime soon. So why isn't Nuclear Throne the most popular game ever created? This I will be covering in Nuclear Throne has unfortunately been the target of a few pieces of recurring criticism. In my opinion, most of these issues are fairly irrelevant, but I'll still try to give them a fair chance. Firstly, the game is locked at 30 FPS and 4:3 aspect ratio. Now, these words alone are enough to make a lot of people snap their own necks in pure reflex, and if this was any other game, I'd completely agree. However, in NT, neither of these things actually become an issue. The 30 FPS cap really isn't that hard to get used to, and neither is the aspect ratio. Yet, even though the developers of Lambert have stated the reasoning for these visual limitations, a lot of people refuse to even give the game a chance because of this. And I frankly think that's completely unfair considering the great game that lies beneath that initial crust of graphical looks. Another complaint I see a lot around the internet is that the game is too hard. Now, I'm not gonna go out there and say that NT is the Dark Souls of roguelites or some shit, but that is actually halfway true. And now it's completely true. I know it sounds stupid for me to sit on my massive fucking pile of hours in this game and tell people to just get good, as they say. But really, get good. This is a game that requires you to hone your skills and really work to improve, or alternatively just let the RNG do the job for you. You're not gonna beat Level Hunter on your third attempt, that's much I can pretty much assure you. But going out there and just saying that the game is too hard isn't doing the game nor you justice. Even if the game blesses you with perfect RNG, there is a limit to how much that can fill in where your own skills don't. The game punishing you as you gradually progress further and further for each run is what makes it satisfying to play. You wanna sit there and think, next run I'll do even better. Now on to what is probably the only complaint about this game I can completely get behind. The game balance of NT has a tendency to be piss poor. When games start to develop overpowered metas, they stop being particularly fun. It really doesn't matter how many weapons are in the game when the only way to get far is by using the super plasma cannon and ultra shovel. At times it seems like the devs just completely forgot balance could be an issue at all. Most of the diversity within mutation choices among players who know what they're doing comes from meta mutations just not being available. At least there is some variety in the characters high-level plays pick. Despite this, I still feel like NT lets you make some interesting decisions at times when it holds the meta options far away from you. Sadly, development on NT has ended, with the devs only occasionally showing up to do a last update, for real this time. In other words, it's unlikely we'll see much rebalancing anytime soon. At this point, if you're anything like the people I've shown this game before, you're probably thinking as follows. Gee, that does sound mighty fine, I'll pick it up someday when it goes on sale. No. If you're a seasoned NT veteran, that phrase might either make you laugh or bring back your depression. Because that's the thing, NT doesn't really go on sale, unless some kind of pandemic threatens the world at least. As usual, the devs have given the reasons for why this is the case, but it really can't be argued with that the game would undoubtedly be more popular if it went on sale every now and then, like any other good little indie game. It is with this in mind, I tell you to please just look past the price tag. If NT sounds like something for you, don't hesitate to buy it. Unless the fucking plague resurfaces, it's highly unlikely that it'll ever go on sale. If it doesn't sound like something for you, that's obviously fine. My intent for this video was just to attempt to give some exposure to a game I feel like has had a major impact on my life. And also because I want to promote a cheaper alternative to heroin.